Hi, this is Angela. Welcome to Shakti Stories.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shakti Stories. I'm feeling so blessed to have Achintya Devi with us today. She's the founder of Goddess Rising Mystery School. She is dedicated to supporting women reclaim their ancient feminine power and sovereignty and embody their soul essence. So, hello, Achintya.
Hi, love. Thank you so much for having me, and to everyone that's listening right now.
Thank you so much for being here. I really feel that you're really the perfect person for Shakti Stories. And at a time like this, I'm really looking forward to having you here with us and sharing your wisdom.
Oh, Angela, thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here with you.
So I wanted to start with, Shakti Stories is all about Shakti, really. It's about the feminine essence and embracing that more in our lives and seeing how women do that uniquely in their own ways. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about what Shakti means to you and how is she weaving through your life?
I love this question. Well, first of all, I love the word Shakti, like that ancient Sanskrit word that I probably first heard when I was 19. So I love Shakti. And to me, when I say it, when I hear Shakti, I feel that the spark of the divine feminine. And so I love that this is the aspect in which you embrace for the stories, because it's the spark of the divine feminine. And wow, who is she to me? Well, in my experience of Shakti, the goddess who is rising, same, right? That divine feminine that is right now in our current timeline, awakening and rising in the consciousness of the planet, and in fact is the planet herself, Gaia, the Earth Mother, having that she being that mother energy. And when I think of Shakti awakening on our planet and who she is for me, she is that. She is the living mother, the living Sophia, the living Shakti that is creation itself. And so that being in the trees and in the flowers and in the literal form of the creative force essence, that is the creative force essence. So in terms of our consciousness on the planet, how I'm experiencing Shakti is really the rising of the feminine essence getting remembered in the lives of women from around the world. And that's really what my life's work is as well. And so that's that reclamation, within my own self and supporting other women to remember. And why I really like to use the word remember is because, the essence of Shakti is within, all beings, and specifically how I've been guided to work with women, but of course this is the essence that is in, men and women and, by gender, genderless. And so that aspect being the important reclamation and reverence to the sacred. And so we're here in a very powerful timeline, on the planet where we have seen and we know so much of the desecration that has happened to our Mother Earth, and the way that we can treat each other as human beings in an illusion of what has been power. One of more of a control system of domination. And so this rising of Shakti to me feels it is that which can't be dominated. It's like trying to put the dam upon a river that eventually is going to burst, because Shakti is just truth. So I see this in the liberation of consciousness from women around the world as they remember, oh yeah, I'm not all these programs that have been indoctrinated into our global societies since a very young age of what it means to be a woman or who I am. And so the divine feminine essence is simultaneously, to me, it's like she's wild. She's the range of emotions that we experience, from bliss to anger to fear to rage to sadness, because as the divine feminine is the waters, it's also then it's the waters of Gaia and the waters of our own emotions. And I see her in many different archetypes as well. And that's one of the powerful ways that I love to work with women, is identifying the archetypal aspects within self that have mythological connection, where we weave in story and the mythos to see, oh yeah, every woman is literally her own heroine in her lifetime. And to then reclaim that Shakti, reclaim that power that has been in some way perhaps been dormant or has been given away, but is really the aspects of self that have been fragmented or hidden away that right now in our consciousness are getting amplified and put back together and literally remembered. So that's part of the way it's like reaching out and literally like a member of you, a part of you coming home. So I see Shakti as really a homecoming to the truth, to the wisdom, to the power and the love of who we are.
Oh, see, this is why I was so excited to have you. As you're speaking, I'm just feeling the Shakti. I'm feeling it in my body, so alive. And yeah, and just, it's amazing. Your words, the sound of them and the way you speak, it just, for me, it does lead me to remember and to feel that there was something, as you're saying, sort of missing from, my regular public school kind of education, which had me sort of just split from my body. And yeah, and it's been such a journey to actually remember and to come back into that place of, my wisdom lies in a deeper place than the books and the outside info.
That really brings up for me, I feel it's like the worldwide reclamation of that illusion that power or wisdom is, or God, goddess, source is outside of ourselves. And of course there's truth to that, right? Where we see the beauty of creation all around us. But what I mean is that it's like not looking outside for all of the answers, or putting our trust into something that isn't really inside of us. So it's that reclamation of finding our inner voice and the truth within us and our own power within us, and that really divinity is inside of us. And so that's where, Shakti resides within. We see her all around us, but her unique frequency is beating within your heart and within the hearts of all the women who are listening in such unique ways. And that's what's so beautiful, I think, with, the essence of Shakti, the essence of the divine feminine expressing or being expressed so uniquely through every being. And of course, then, if we're speaking about a global sisterhood through women, is this aspect of celebrating and honoring and learning from and working together with the different ways that Shakti expresses herself. And that's where I love to get in, with the different archetypal energies. It's like this connects to the entire lunar cycle. It's like your Shakti energy and my Shakti energy on a given day could be very different, because you be in your own cycle of more inward and internal restoration that connects, with the dark of the moon. And I could be in my sort of juicy, more like, out there, maybe have an erotic tinge of energy, but like a playful energy or in a lover energy. And so all of the different expressions of Shakti have their place that are all in the natural world. So it's really this returning, right, to the way that Gaia is, that nature is the way that we are as well.
Yes. Well, I love that example because actually 2 days ago I had tons of energy and I was like starting to, put out energy and just, I don't know, I felt like, yeah, in a different place. And then yesterday my moon cycle started and I all of a sudden did kind of slow down and it's like, whoa, I have no choice but to move more slowly and be more present in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm here with you. I am too in my own moon, a little bit
Yeah.
more towards the end, but that's the place where I think that, where this conversation seems to be moving.
Yeah.
It really is the honoring of those cycles, and I think
Yes.
that what really comes to mind for me with that, and when you said it's like, okay, I have no choice but to slow down, and then another way too, you could I could invite you to view it too, would be like, oh, I get to slow down,
Yeah.
or it's like, okay, or I'm choosing to, right? Because
Yeah.
I think even just that is this, this really powerful example about how our society in general has been a go, 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 do, accomplish, the next, and running at a speed that clearly is unhealthy for us, that creates stress and anxiety and overwhelm, and is a global pandemic in that sense already. So here we are in a timeline on our planet where that is unprecedented, where, we are having, so to speak, a global pause.
Yes.
And of course, that's different for everyone. It's like we're all experiencing this differently, whether this is, being at home and feeling relaxed, or being at home and being even more stressed out because the kids are now home, 24/7, and all the aspects of, working with finances and emotions. And but it's like we're going through a massive Shakti awakening and initiation right now.
Yes.
And to see about how even in such a short amount of time, there's been so much restoration of Gaia's own ecosystem. And so she can heal that fast.
Yeah.
It's a sign that we can as well. So, I mean, what perfect timing to be having this conversation with Shakti herself and all of her children are going through a massive, story of that which is very unknown. But at the same time, I feel we're all in a great place of opportunity to be able to direct our energy of how does the story go? Well, how do we want to create the outcome of this? What are the internal changes that I need to make? What are the external changes that we need to make together? So I feel like Shakti Stories has just taken on like this whole other meaning.
Yeah, I love that. And that circles back to what you were saying about myth and story, and how, when we can connect in with those greater myths, those transpersonal stories, we can see where we can put into context where our struggles may lie. And that, a teacher of mine wrote a lot about Persephone in her book, Dark Feminine Rising. And it's really been coming up for me. Yeah, this last little while, because it's just like, wow, that going in and that going into the darkness, and how, that's where you are crowned to come back up. And, that's where you find that. She also says in her book, like, this is her direct quote, is, "It's the dark, not the light, that heals." And I just think that's so profound.
Yeah. It is. It's very, well, and what comes to mind for me, actually, when I think about that too, is a reframe of how we view darkness.
Yeah.
Because the word dark itself has been used to be a synonym with evil or bad. And I am quite a advocate of reframing darkness to one that is more in the essence of empowerment, which is when we say, the dark feminine or the dark, I liken that to the womb, and the womb space of pure potentiality and creation, and the dark of the night and the magic of the stillness. And that is really the feminine principle. So I think there's a real powerful reframe of the dark And then the shadow. So it's like, okay, the shadow part of ourselves is that which we can't see, or the parts of ourselves that that we have exiled, that we have annihilated, or that we've hidden, or that has been fragmented, or, you know, are the where there's been wounding. And so I think when we have that incredible distinction, we have an opportunity to really catch ourselves in going, oh yeah, I'm participating in a global reframe of the divine feminine and what darkness really is. And whilst then also acknowledging and putting different language into, oh, the shadow part. Yeah, okay. So they're different.
Yeah, no, I love that distinction. And what came to mind for me when you brought up the shadow was, you know, since our cycles came up, our moon cycles or menstrual cycles, when I was very young, I got my menstrual cycle. I was only 11. And it wasn't really embraced, you know, there was no one really kind of going, oh, my mom was probably thinking, oh no, she's becoming a woman and the older guys are going to be interested in her, right? So there wasn't any celebration. In fact, I felt this feeling of like, not to tell anyone, I need to hide this. There was shame there. And so, yeah, it's still interesting to me in the way that as that cycle comes up through the month, noticing the ways in which I want to hide.
That's really powerful. That's very powerful. And, you know, I will say with that too, there is a beauty of that hiding too, right? Reveal, or to conceal in a time when, you know, we're most intuitive. And to honor that of, so it's an interesting place. It's like the shadow and the light of hiding, right? It's like, oh, am I hiding from fear? Or, you know, am I hiding as more of a concealment to preserve my energy? So that's really amazing too.
Yeah, I love that. I think that brings up the point you were making, where there's the dark as in the womb space, where, I do love that when I hide in a way that is actually more about cutting off external energies and just being with myself. But that being different sometimes from the actual pieces that might be, that may have in the past, especially that were more connected with feelings, like emotions that made me feel unworthy. And so I noticed that shift, and
Oh, and that's like where I feel you see like what you said right here, because for me, it's like when I think of Shakti in this way and emotions, right? It's like that whatever emotion that anybody here feels at any given moment, right? I believe is to be honored. You're not, or we are not meant truly, we've been sort of indoctrinated into this, to have certain emotions be okay and certain emotions, oh, it's not okay. And I really actually see this sort of as this, well, I don't know the exact word to use for this, but what I see is that there's a lot of emotions that as women we can experience, and it's okay for us. It's culturally or societally accepted. It's okay for us to feel joy. And in fact, we should feel joy for the most part. And that's the normal, where you should always operate at. And if you feel sadness or fearful, well, that's okay too, because you're a woman. But if you feel angry, all of a sudden it's like you're a bitch. And and there's like, there can be resistance, and where it's like anger in and of itself isn't bad. Anger is there for a reason. If we utilize anger to create harm, like that, it perpetuates, you know, violence and pain. But when we utilize anger because either A, we've seen something that's crossing a boundary in our external world or in our own selves, where it's like, anger is meant to be felt, and expressed, so let's use our anger if it comes up in a way that can be, healthy, like getting a pillow and just like smashing it and screaming, whatever, to move the energy, because all emotions, right? This is the power of Shakti. It's like she's always transforming. So once she feels her anger, okay, then there's going to be, a coming to a more neutral place.
Yes.
And it's so I feel it's like it's so important. It's so important for us then to be feeling our sadness, to feel the fear, whatever it is, all the way through. Because all those emotions, just like the waters, have their own cycle. Like I liken it to where there's a river flowing and then that gets evaporated and then it rains down. And there's always these cycles of the water. And, and just sort of taking this one step further, where the Shakti energy is in men, where it can be okay for men then, this is the word I was looking for, double standard. So it's okay for men to be angry.
Yes.
But then if they're fearful or if they're sad, then they can be labeled culturally as weak. And we may not have that in our front conscious mind, but in the unconscious of our cultural programming, that can create a dissonance or, rejection. And it's like, we're all human and we all have these feelings. And it's so important for us, I believe, as I was sharing, it's like to express them all as needed, not to push them away, but also to honor those feelings in all beings.
Yes. I think this is so important. Yeah, and it's making me think about our current situation, with the virus and with all the emotions that are coming up around that, the fear, and there probably is anger, there is sadness, there's grief, and like people, and there is real loss. People really are losing people right now, and then there's the fear of what could happen to people you love, and it's an interesting time because it's sort of like, so there's so many unknowns and there's so much uncertainty. And that makes me want to ask you what you think about what we are being called to face right now, or bring into our awareness as a collective.
Oh, it's so big. I feel myself wanting to cry. It feels so huge and so big. I think there's a few things, as we've been speaking about the emotional piece too, which is kind of ironic because I feel the tears. I also feel I do feel like this anger piece as well. And I think where this comes from, without getting too deep down this rabbit hole, but it's like, I feel like we're really at a timeline of where a lot of different realities and timelines are merging. So we're in like this time beyond time and a space beyond space at a very potent prophesized time where massive astrological and astronomical events are happening for the rebirth of our world. And I feel we're all going, to some degree, it's like, is this happening? What is happening? Like you shared this with the uncertainty piece, and it's like that there is a birth, and with all birth, there is uncertainty of exact timing, the birth pains of feeling all these different emotions and physical, sensations, having grief, having the loss, having, mass change and transformation. And on one level, what I see on a very sort of 3D aspect is that so many of our structures from, governments and schooling and corporations, all that has been hidden is beginning to really reveal itself. And there's a lot that's here that's opening it's like taking the blinders off to a society that we've been, in some ways like spoon-fed, from the media streams, like mass media and corporations, of a real huge, I will say, force of domination and control. Yes. That actually has a lot of layers of abuse and pain and disregard for humanity and the earth at a large, that are coming, like that is coming up to the surface to be seen and experienced and revealed by the masses, so that there can be a huge liberation of what truth really is, and the liberation of the structures that have really oppressed humanity as a whole. Yeah. So that we can then come together, and this is sort of now merging to a heart-centered space of the power of our unified hearts and our minds to direct our power, which is inside of us, not outside of us, and coming together as a global community through the true power of what we can say, generating thought or heart coherence or prayer, ceremony, but whatever we call that, it's a direction and a directing of our energy, a directing of our love, our true power for the outcome that we wish to experience for ourselves and for our future generations. And so this is, and this is multi-dimensional, I really feel. And so I feel that there's this happening on earth, and an awakening and opening to more of a galactic community where it's like, oh yeah, we are surely not the only ones in this universe. And actually we have a lot of support from the unseen realms, and we can say, forces of love that have been working for this for a very long time, and is exactly why we were born, why we are here in this timeline, to be that being equipped. And this is an interesting piece, just like for everyone listening right now, it's like we're all equipped to some degree right now to contribute our energy in the way that we're meant to for the good of all beings. And like that's the part where I feel emotional about, because it's just it's so huge. It's so huge. And so yes, this is, a rebirthing time of Shakti, of the divine feminine, and yet that includes the divine masculine. Yes. Right? So this is a time where these it's like, yeah, and I do say time, it's like a timeline is up. It is up, where it's like it's now, and who knows at the airing of this, like where we're going to be, but we're literally in the change, we're in the transformation right now. And this is the process, or shall I say this is an initiation, and each of our own processes can be very different, but are also linked up because we're all human. Yeah. So I feel like we're in this mass global initiation of awakening right now, and ascension, and not ascension that's like leaving our body and going out somewhere else, but that's here, embodied in this.
I love that.
So it's like Shakti embodied.
Yes. It's actually funny you say that, because I got that Instagram handle.
Oh,
yeah. I haven't used it, but I was like, Shakti embodied, like that came to me like last month. I was like, that's what I'm experiencing. So I love it. Yeah.
I love it. I think I actually have one of the URLs. I think it's Embodying Shakti. .com. Yeah, I have a few handful I still have. So there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just so cool, because I've always really admired your way with ritual, and with, really bringing it into the body and into this plane, which also invites those, elementals and other, it says, yes, we are in a multi-dimension, and it's that is something that has been just so, I think because it's been so programmed out of me from regular school and everything, it's like, it's been a real returning, even just, when I listen to something that you've shared. I also met you about 7 years ago, we were saying, at a womb clearing retreat. And I was telling you before we jumped on the interview that at that time I was working at a chronic pain clinic, so very kind of heavy work. And it was just such an amazing weekend to be with other women and to be in ceremony together. And it just shifted me from thinking that I had to work in counseling in this sort of more formal, expected way, to already at that time going, no, this is more my realm. And it's like it's taken me a while to get to that place where I really feel that I'm owning that more and more in my work. But I love what you were just saying there about our purpose coming forward, because that's what I feel. I feel I'm being called more and more to doing that work that is inclusive of the many layers of our reality.
Absolutely. And Angela, I so congratulate you and I honor you for that, in that, that is showing, and this is the portrayal, like this conversation that we're having, right now, of you following your heart.
Yes.
Of really following your truth. Yeah. And the journey of what that is, having to let go of certain expectations that maybe you had of your own self, or that you felt pressure potentially from others, or the way things are supposed to be, but really going for what most resonates for who you truly are and how you're here to serve in your own embodied leadership. And so, that of what you are doing and then how you are being is exactly this same energy that we're in right now. We're being asked to really look at and reevaluate where our energy goes, how we are being. Do I wish to, just sort of side note with this, with the jobs, it's like, whoa, with so many people losing their jobs, which is then somehow an invitation then of, okay, how am I going to be generating, creating a living for myself? And that immediately goes into, what's my purpose? Like, how do I want to contribute my energy? So there's a whole redistribution of energy happening for the world. And I pray that this is going to be a mass reset then of where our energy resources are derived from, and how we redistribute wealth on the planet, and what wealth really is. It feels like we're in this massive birthing for literally the new paradigm, meaning that what's coming to me is, of course, and this isn't word for word, but, Albert Einstein's quote about how the problem cannot be solved on the level of where it was created. And so we see right now in our planet all of these, quote, problems. And they're, with the current paradigm that's here, we could only go so far. So it takes another external, like the out of the box thinking and energy for there to be a mass catalyzing of the shift. That is here to then create the solutions for, for the way in which we live upon this planet in a way that can be symbiotic again. And gosh, we have, a long way to go. And yet at the same time, even that thought is a projected idea that I'm also open to having, be debunked. And it's like, actually can be simpler. Actually, here it is. Here's the New Earth template. And it's like, so there's so much potentiality and possibility. The unknown, the uncertainty right now. And so I just keep coming back to, how can I best, utilize my own energy, my own resources right now, and how can I contribute that and bring that end of a collective sphere with others to direct our energy for the earth that we wish to live in, for the Shakti story that we wish to work together.
Yes, I love it. I relate to that so much. And just, to give an example, it's like I notice when my mind starts to go into, okay, people are, dropping off my counseling list because they wanted to meet in person, or I'm offering more sliding scale. If somebody calls in right away, I'm letting them know, hey, we can do this at a sliding scale price. And then my mind starts to go, okay, what's going on here? Am I going to end up, am I going to be able to pay all my bills? And there's this track I can go on there where I even go, oh, the Canadian government is giving out, these new like supports, but I'm looking at the list. I'm like, yeah, I don't really apply for any of those because I want to keep working. But when I'm going down this track, it can go like, oh, everybody else is going to get, taken care of and I won't, And then when I feel space from that, I'm like, actually, I feel so blessed because people are still wanting to do the therapy work. And, when I was describing working at the chronic pain clinic, what I didn't actually say there was that it was people who were often on WorkSafe claims for a very long time. And WorkSafe was also my client. So the challenge was there in the fact that I couldn't do actual therapy because the clients were in there wanting to stay on their claim, and WorkSafe was asking me to get them back to work. So there was this real like tension and divide there. And now in my work, I find there's not a lot of polarity in that sense, because clients generally are coming in to me who do want to go back to those places, to see the places that actually had to do with their stuckness. And now I notice that the work has become a lot lighter, because it's like we still go into painful places. We definitely go into the pain and seeing the circumstances that created that. But I notice that, that people are more and more moving toward their own sovereignty and their own recognition of, oh, okay, I have the power here. And that's felt really, it's been beautiful, because it's really been, it's felt more aligned for me to stay in that place of, oh yeah, I've got the power here. I'll still be able to make things work.
Yes. Yeah. And that's that embodied Shakti right
Yeah.
there. And that's the responsibility too. It's like, okay, I have the power within me. And again, a power that is truth, that is wisdom, that is energy, not domination and control, but like true power.
Yes.
Where then, because and the continued journey of that in my experience, okay, and my responsibility then. Responsibility that I have, because that's one of the biggest things I think that, that within this time and and everything you just spoke about with therapy, it's like people not wanting to take responsibility, either being in the victim role and perpetuating, this triangle of the victim and the hero and the perpetuator, or the
perpetrator.
Perpetuating. That came out. And going, oh yeah, I'm going to step off of that drama triangle, and wow, there's a whole new relationship to energy then.
Yes.
Because it's not moving in that triangle. And it's like, that's where the liberation is. Then that's where the responsibility is. And then that's where the power is. So I feel that is a massive part of this global initiation that we are in. Because I think we could have a story that's, okay, yep, this is, what's happening on the planet, and, and being a victim too. And I want to be very careful and cognizant and compassionate here, because yes, there are people who are getting sick and who are dying, and, and you who are listening may have a loved one who has passed, or know of somebody. So I don't mean it in that of a way, but I mean it in the way of a victim of, that, okay, here we are as a global society feeling, oh, we're just like hopeless, and wanting the hero to step in. And it's like that. And unfortunately, I think that's a very dangerous way of thinking right now, because the same forces that have created this, pandemic would be, this is all in the unknown, but in sort of that trajectory of story, would be the same ones to also be the hero and to have a solution. And I don't think that quote solution is actually something that's here to support humanity. So you can read into that in different ways. And so there's a way where it's like, okay, it's like, oh, here's a pandemic. We're creating this. Okay, here. And then we're going to create the vaccine, which is the solution for it. When it's like that there's so much, of an intention to actually harm people, then if what's really in that vaccine is not really to cure people. So it's just like so it's like taking that energy of awareness of going, oh yeah, okay, a reframe then of what the power is, what the struggle is, what is going on, and how we can support each other to get out of the victim mode. And whether this is in our own works and our finances, but it's an initiation of creativity, initiation of self-resourcing our own true power. And gosh, what a journey, because wow, and I just feel it's like what's gonna come from this, with the strength of the human spirit that's within all of us, the Shakti, the Shiva and the Shakti. So within is, yes, we're in these unprecedented times, and we have such a phenomenal opportunity right now. And so us coming together to source that power from within and direct it in a way globally, for really the world we're here to create is why we're here. So these are the most exciting times, we've ever lived in. And of course, we don't know, there's so much that's unknown, but there's so much that I feel we have the opportunity to co-create right now.
I just love your words.
Oh,
you just say it so well.
Oh, thank you. I humbly receive.
And one other thing that just came to mind when you were sharing that was something I wanted to share. It's last week I had a dream that I was in this house. It was kind of like this glass house. And I saw outside this big man, way bigger than a human man, covered in black robes. And he was going behind my friend Andrea from my childhood. And so I opened the door and I warned her and I yelled, it's right behind you. And then she seemed to be alert. And so I closed the door and I was like, I've got to go get help. But I locked the door. Then I ran upstairs to try and see if Prasad, I think I was looking for my partner and a couple other friends, but they were already gone from upstairs. And so I ran back down, and now I couldn't see Andrea anymore, but this big dark figure had another girl who I didn't know, but he was hitting her against the glass. And it was terrifying because I saw her face and she looked so scared. And so in a way there was this moment where I thought, I have to get him. How can I get him? And I was looking for something. I'm like, I don't think a weapon will work. I was going to hit him with a lamp shade or something, but I kind of knew it wouldn't work. And then I woke up because I actually did get scared because he looked at me. And when I woke up, I knew I just started to breathe really deep, into my feet, because I actually had been frightened by the dream, which I don't get that very often. But it was, I know because of the fact that I said it's coming for you, and the fact that it was this very, very classic Jungian kind of motif there with this figure that was more like a monster than a person. But it was the part that I noticed for me was that I had locked the door on the being, the creature, but in locking the door, I had realized, oh my gosh, maybe the other woman had tried to get in, and maybe she was locked out. So I noticed in the dream feeling this guilt of locking the door. And that just came to mind when you just shared about how just coming up with a vaccine or something new to try and like close it off, it's a very different thing from seeing, okay, from staying really in our presence and calming ourselves and soothing ourselves, and knowing that fear makes sense and it's okay, and being with it, embracing it, but from that place acting, and maybe instead of running up the stairs and trying to find someone else, there may have been a different way to face that that unknown entity. And so that just came to mind when you were sharing. Yeah.
That parallels, so much, I feel. And I mean, and just, what struck me too is like, you had shared like, you didn't, or that you felt fear, and you didn't often feel that way. And I think that is part of our massive collective experience right now, feeling fear. There's reason to feel fear. It's not to bypass that. And this is the thing, not to bypass any of the emotions.
Yeah.
I think what's unserving or a disservice to ourselves is when we allow fear to stop us, and it creates the barrier to the actions that we need to take, or just keeps us in a state of being frozen.
Yes.
Where that those feelings just start to just keep looping and looping and looping, where it does not feel very good. And so I think it's a really important balance of when we do feel fear, to really allow ourselves to feel that.
Yeah.
And it's it's an interesting one, because it will run its course.
Yeah.
But we have the choice though of going, oh, do I want to keep thinking the thoughts that create the fear in me? Or do I want to start thinking new thoughts that can support me to move out of fear? And of course, fear is always just logical. So there's the embodied part as well. And so utilizing, different embodiment practices to get, through fear and with fear. So I think that those are two really important aspects, because fear is, when on a global scale, it's like if we as a humanity are all in fear, that's where there's continued enslavement and domination and the control. So when we move out of fear and into our own sovereignty, that's when we're liberated and we can't be dominated and controlled. But of course, that's such a journey, for each and every one of us. And I would say too, for anyone that's listening right now, if you do feel a lot of fear that is perpetuating right now, that to please reach out to those within your communities to get great support. It's a wonderful resource I can share too. We could put it in the link below, and it's with one of my husbands who he trained with for many years ago, Katie Hendricks, and she has a whole fear melters techniques, because your fear signature of how fear in your own body lands differently, supporting in movement, different movements to move through the fear in an embodied way. We could put that link here. I think that's a very powerful resource for people as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I definitely I find that really interesting, because it was the dream when I had it. It was a real wake up call for me, because of the fact that so far in Canada and Victoria, there's certainly cases, but I hadn't had anyone at that point that I knew. And in the dream, I was wondering, is this monster, is it life-threatening to these friends of mine that I was seeing? So in a way, I wasn't sure if it was, how much it was hurting her, and that was interesting to me too, because it's like, it's like there are these unknowns, but it's like, if I had been, I could picture it after. I do a lot of dream work, and I imagined after, when I woke up and was just breathing more deeply and just just meeting myself, I could imagine things being a little bit different. And I was like, oh, I would have kind of, told my friends to come inside, and, I would have taken it step by step. I would have taken it more slowly. And then there may have been a different way that I didn't even imagine, and I started to let that move forward, where it's like, okay, I'd invite my friends, and I'd kind of think, okay, well, like there could be something really creative. Like this is in the imagination, but it's like, what could work with this creature that's outside the door and wants, seems to want us. It's like, well, is there something that it wouldn't like? Like, what could I put there as a protection? What would just invite it to leave, And so I started to think more about that and see that in my mind, which was really kind of comforting, because of course in the real life scenario we're in, like, you can't see this virus. You can't see it with your eyes, but it is a different approach. And I'm social distancing at home, but it's like just a very different approach to kind of see it as, what am I actually facing when I'm looking at that monster? Maybe it's not just a virus so much as it is representative. It is also representative of all these things that are still showing up in my world that I actually need to say no to. And, I need to see them clearly in order to say no to them.
That's so powerful. And you said, because it was all glass, so you're seeing it very clearly.
Yeah.
The boundaries up, you created your protection, even though you could see, and you could see it very clearly.
Yes.
Very powerful metaphor. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciated just that whole talk with you, because it's always a mystery when we just like dive in, and I don't exactly know where the conversation's going to go. And that for me is such a feminine way. And that's what I appreciate most about you, is the way that you really hold that feminine essence in such a way that is so much integrity and authenticity. Yeah.
Thank you, Angela. Well, I'm so grateful to be here with you, and I say with you and with all of you that are listening right now. And I extend my prayers and my blessings to you, to all of your beloveds, in this very powerful shifting of our timelines and ascension of planet Earth that is multi-layered. And I extend the greatest blessings of continued safety and empowerment and love. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela.
You really inspired me. Can't wait to share this with everyone.
Oh, so much love. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.